told your friend you're not okay.
Hello everyone, welcome back to K-pop News, where we cover all things Korean entertainment with details that are not only informative but also insightful. Today, we're going to delve into one of Kim Taehyung's most iconic moments since his return from military service, a photo shoot that wasn't just a photo shoot, but a confirmation of his identity, life philosophy, and the evolution of an artist named V. This photo shoot with Vogue Japan in Paris feels like a fusion of two worlds, the mysterious and romantic aesthetic of 90s cinema, and Taehyung's calm, gentle, yet assertive charm behind every glance. It only takes one glance, and the entire atmosphere seems to shift. There's a subtle charisma, innocent yet rebellious, that makes Taehyung always seem like the main character in a film we can't stop rooting for. In this photo shoot, which features Taehyung with a 90s cinema feel, he wears Celine, giving a classic yet modern look. Taehyung described the photo shoot as a truly enjoyable experience, but also one that required emotional preparation. He even admitted to pausing to ensure the concept, composition, and mood were perfectly on point. Together with photographer Jongga, whom he calls a genius, Taehyung established a two-way communication so that the end result wasn't just a photo, but a work of art. And of course, as someone who has always been connected to the world of visuals and music, Taehyung spoke at length about his love of film. From Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs to Pride and Prejudice, to the talented Mr. Ripley, a film recently recommended by Park Chan-wook. But the film that truly left a lasting impression on him was Born to be Blue, a work that portrays the life of Chet Baker with such emotion. As a jazz fan, Taehyung absorbed the film not just as a spectacle, but as a personal experience. Then, when the discussion turned to BTS, the atmosphere became warmer and more nostalgic. When asked about BTS's 12th debut anniversary on June 13, 2025, when all 7 members appeared together at J-Hope's concert, Taehyung honestly admitted that he cried. It wasn't just about missing them, but more about the feeling of being back together as a unified whole. He even said that seeing the members pursue their own solo endeavors made him even more proud, as if he were seeing 7 different versions of a miracle. An interesting aside, when asked where he wanted to go with all the members, Taehyung replied that anywhere would be fun, as long as they went together. The only place he didn't want to go back together? The office. A simple answer, but one that showed the warmth of their relationship. Taehyung also talked about how much he missed performing as V. After being away from the stage for so long, he found that side of him somewhat unfamiliar, but the longing only made him even more eager for BTS's 2026 album. He said that his relationship with music hadn't changed, but he felt like it had grown. And the songs that best represent him, 4 O'Clock, Scenery, and Winter Ahead with Park Hyo-shin, are a series of emotional journeys that show his evolution over time. As a person, he describes himself with 3 words: curious, stubborn, and optimistic. His fashion sense, meanwhile, can be summed up in one word: warm. He always incorporates a hint of red into his outfits and prefers calming colors like brown, gray, and green. When he returned to Paris Fashion Week 2025, instead of busy networking, he spent more time with his friends there, a characteristic of Taehyung that further demonstrates that he doesn't get caught up in the hustle and bustle of popularity. Taehyung's definition of beauty is also unique. For some, beauty might be merely visual, but for Taehyung, beauty is something that captivates the heart, something inexplicable but immediately felt when he sees perfume, jewelry, or even the moment paint touches white fabric during a photo shoot. When asked about his health, he chuckled and admitted that he sometimes feels lazy, but still tries to exercise every day. His bedtime routine is simple, closing his eyes and trying to empty his mind. Small answers like these reveal Taehyung's honest, down-to-earth, yet charming personality. One moment stands out for him, a New Year's celebration in New York in 2019. Listening to jazz while waiting for the new year made him feel like he was living in a romantic movie. And speaking of Taehyung's maturing journey, there's one thing that runs through all of his confessions in Vogue Japan, a desire to always provide something meaningful for the people who love him. From the way he talks about BTS, music, films, and even the small moments in his life, we can see how he's grown not only as a global artist, but also as a human being rediscovering himself after going through a major transition, including his military service, which changed the rhythm of his life for the past 2 years. What's most noticeable is his emotional maturity. In his previous narrative, Taehyung spoke about his desire to become someone unwavering. And when we look at his activities since his discharge, attending Paris Fashion Week, a successful Vogue Japan photo shoot, and increasing involvement with global brands like Celine and Cartier, they all feel like the first steps toward becoming the version of himself he desires. He's taking his time, but each appearance carries weight, purpose, and conveys the message that Taehyung isn't just back, but back with a clearer vision. You may remember how Taehyung described 2025 as a year that seemed quiet on the surface, but was actually full of preparation. Well, that brings us to the next big point, how all of that process shaped his path to 2026. Amidst photo shoots, fashion shows, and various overseas trips, Taehyung was apparently planning a lot with his members. They discussed possibilities, the direction of the new album, and their journey as a group ready to return to the stage with a completely new energy. If we relate that to the Vogue Japan quote, about how he watched the other members' concerts and felt an almost inexplicable sense of awe, we can see that beneath Taehyung's calm, there's a fire that's been burning for a long time. He misses performing. He misses greeting ARMY. He misses the sound of cheers bouncing from all corners of the globe. Taehyung even mentioned that he wants to quickly return to the stage as V. And when he says that, you can definitely sense that this side of him isn't gone, it's just waiting for the right moment to explode again. The interesting part? Every little detail he shares, his taste in movies, his style of dress, his pre-bedtime routine, even his understanding of beauty, indirectly illustrates Taehyung's future artistic direction. His 90s film aesthetic, warm color palette, love of jazz, sensitivity to atmosphere, habit of paying attention to the little details in life, these are all clues to the character that will likely inform Taehyung's future work, both musically and visually. And it's precisely this Vogue Japan photo shoot that cements that image. The shoot is like an opening, showing us how Taehyung wants to be known at this stage, elegant, mature, cinematic, and full of emotional depth. Not only that, Taehyung's approach to the shoot demonstrates that he's not just a subject, but an artist who seeks to build meaning into every frame. The relationships between the BTS members also add depth to Taehyung's journey. When he says that he respects the other members not just because they're cool, but because each step they take feels like inspiration that shapes him, it demonstrates an emotional closeness that's hard to find in other groups. He sees them as an artistic family, people who help him maintain his direction, even as they pursue their own paths. This all becomes even more relevant when we consider how the worlds of fashion, music, and film are now interconnected in Taehyung's journey. He exists not only as an idol, but as a global cultural figure who understands that art is a universal language that can be expressed in many forms: sound, movement, visuals, clothing styles, even ways of seeing the world. That's why 2026, with BTS's new album, world tour, and possible follow-up solo projects, is such a highly anticipated time. Taehyung himself has stated that his most iconic song, V, has yet to be written. And that statement isn't just an admission, but a promise, that there's something bigger, something more personal, that he's quietly crafting. Looking at the entire narrative of Vogue Japan, and how Taehyung is processing life after his military service, one thing becomes clear: he's entering a time where his identity is becoming more refined, more mature, and more emotionally rich. Not just as V of BTS, but as Kim Taehyung, an artist who lives from curiosity, belief, and love for art and his fans.
Never said you felt that way. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake it.